This is KUGAN CASSIUS for iFull TV in association with Macklin's Gym Marbella. We're at Frederick's Restaurant here. With me I've got Frank Warren. Frank, obviously there's no other place to start than the tragic news that Muhammad Ali had passed away last week at the age of 74. I mean, what can be said that hasn't already been said since then?
Well, I don't think much. I mean, he's had fantastic accolades. He's had 16-page pullouts in newspapers in the UK. It's been front page, main story news throughout the world on TV and throughout all the media. And that tells you the respect and the mark that he made on the world.
As global figures go, not just in boxing, but there's not many people you could probably run into the street that, even if they're not into boxing, that hadn't heard of Muhammad Ali.
Well, he was the most famous man on the planet, bar none. There's no doubt about that. And I was lucky enough to meet him a few times. I never see him fight live. It was before my time, or certainly before I was going to those type of. I never go to those fights, but I met him when he came over to London twice. He went to my uncle and his partner Albert had a betting office in Frith Street, and very good friends of my family's were Chris and Angelo Dundee. Chris became my agent when I first started in boxing, and I met him there, and I was a young kid. I think I was 14 the second time I met him. I was 14, and sort of mesmerised by him. He was a very significant figure, and I was very lucky. I think it was about 1989, 1990. They'd done a video called Champions Forever. Him, Joe Frazier and George Foreman, the Trinity, the holy trinity of the heavyweight division, probably the best heavyweights ever. And certainly the best generation of heavyweights all at one time. I hosted their launch of their video in those days, and it's quite a humbling experience to be there with them.
Obviously, when you look at the current boxing scene, even you're drawing back over the last sort of 20, 30 years, is Ali the person in boxing of our lifetime? Is it impossible to see someone else replicate anything near to what he done on a global scale in our lifetime?
Well, I think times change. I mean, he was a man of his time. And at that time, when he was born, blacks didn't have votes in America. He stood up for his race and for his beliefs, so much so that his living was taken away from him for 3 years by the American government. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison, which he successfully or eventually appealed. But he was willing to do that. He was willing to give up, basically have the roof taken over his head and go to prison because he believed that, he believed in his rights. And he was also a boxer that came in when TV was really motoring, when TV was taking off around the world, and that delivered him to a whole new audience. Rather than read about the fighters or see some, or maybe go to the cinema to see a newsreel, you actually see the guy on the news and see recorded fights, the recorded fights that he had probably a couple of days later after his fights, and that took him into a new audience. Plus the fact he could fight, he was an athlete, and more important, he was funny, he was engaging, and he was dynamic. He was an iconic figure, not just in boxing, but from the world.
A notable programme that's airing on BoxNation this Friday at 6 o'clock is My Life with Ali, which features his wife talking about, memories and pastimes, which is quite interesting. We just saw a snippet of it there.
It is. It's one of his wives, Kalea, who's Belinda, her name was, and she's on there. She's talking about her time with him. And then Thomas Hauser, who was his official biographer, interviewed her a couple of months ago, and as you say, it's going out on Friday night at 6 o'clock, and it's really worth a watch because it's another facet, another side of Muhammad Ali. He was like all of us. He was, as much as he was a fantastic human being, sportsman, he had the other side of him, and he had the family side of him. He did things that, and had weaknesses like we all have. And I think it's quite interesting, and it's another line on it. All this week on BoxNation, every night we're showing different programmes regarding him in his honour. One of them is called CASSIUS, which I believe is the first documentary that was ever involved with. That's filmed back in, I think it was 1963. So that's really good. It's very, very interesting. I'm sure people will love it.
Everyone log on to BoxNation.com and all the details will be on there, obviously, of all the times. Frank, obviously, you were talking there about yesterday, did an interview with Eddie Hearn where he obviously was talking about Liam Smith and Terry Flanagan, as in reference to Crawler and Kell Brook. Just a response from you about that.
Well, first of all, it's, you know, it keeps on banging. He actually avoids, every time he speaks, he avoids the question we ask, why can't we make the fights that matter? And he comes out with some other rubbish. You know, we tried to make Liam Smith against Kell Brook. It didn't happen. We offered him big money. And I'll tell you something, Kell Brook should go and look at his bank account, see how much money he's got. You know, when he left, you know, when we parted our ways, because Alton worked with his dad was involved, quite a few years ago, he was ranked then #1 mandatory challenger to Manny Pacquiao. It took him, I think, about 3 years to get a world title fight, and he's been out of action for a year. And I've got Eddie Hearn telling me what I should be doing with my fighters, and what my fighters should be doing, what they should be examining. Well, let me tell you what should be examined. Liam Smith has won a world title, and we made that happen for him in the UK. Two of his brothers, Stephen and Paul, went to Matchroom, and they got shipped off abroad to fight for world titles and never won them. Liam Smith will make a lot of money. If you had to match all their bank accounts, you see what he's earned, and more importantly, you know what he's got above his mantelpiece? A world title. Hearn didn't deliver that for him. I've delivered that for my man. That's what matters. And Liam Smith will go on from strength to strength. He's a good young fighter. And it's with Hearn and the usual crap that he comes out with about what fighters should be thinking about and doing. You've got another fighter or two fighters, Terry Flanagan and Anthony Crawler. And Crawler's, I think, a super young fighter, and so is Terry Flanagan. You know, what platform? Well, make the fight. Go on Sky. Put the fight on Sky. Forget about talking about all these other fights. Make it. He told Steve Wood, who's the manager of Terry Flanagan, that Sky would not allow a joint promotion between me and him. Well, I'm going to tell you, put the fight on Sky, because Barney Francis has confirmed to me it can be a joint promotion. Put it on 50-50, down the line, winner gets it. That should be on. Stop coming out with all this rubbish about platforms. Make the fights. All the fans care about are the fights. And he continually denigrates BoxNation. You have a program on BoxNation. I'm going to ask you a question now. What do you think of BoxNation? Tell me.
Well, listen, as a boxing fan, forget that I work for BoxNation, but as a boxing fan, I don't think that you can argue much.
60 world title fights a year.
£12 a month.
Sky
as
don't
a boxing
deliver that.
fan.
Sky don't deliver that. As a boxing fan, we deliver for our fighters. All my fighters need to know is they're going to get well paid, which they do. They're going to fight regularly, which they do, and they'll get their opportunity to fight for world titles, and I'll deliver it to them, which I've always done from day one. I'm my own man. I'm not beholden to Sky. I'm my own man. I go out and do my own thing. We're innovative, what we do. We've gone out there. We put our money up for the channel. The channel, again with him, the channel has no bank overdraft. It has the support of its shareholders. And one of my partners is my partner is Bill Ives. And between us, we've made this work. So there's no pressure on the channel. All it is with him is all this nonsense to cloud the issue. Because the issue is, at the end of the day, you, the boxing fan, do you want to see the fights? If you want to see the fights, then get out there and say you want to see them. Because I have no problem making any of these fights. Not zero problem. And I don't care what channel they go on. They can put one on ours and two on Sky. But let's find out who's the best. We don't even know the best lightweight is in Manchester. How can that be? How can that be? Put it on Sky. Hearn, put it on Sky. Barney Francis said, who's the head of sport for Sky, there's no problem doing a joint promotion. All your bullshit, put it to one side. Let's get the fights on that the fans want to see. And let's start. And I'm not going to have you coming batting every week, coming back and forwards between him. You know, this is about it as far as I'm concerned. He's been forever.
Don't say that.
No, I'm going to tell you, he's forever putting these smoke screens on. All I'm interested in doing is making the fights like I've always done. You know, Nigel Benn, Steve Collins, Joe Calzaghe, Richie Woodall. young kid from Manchester, Robin Reed. They all fought. I made the fights happen. Make the fights happen for the fans. Make them happen. This is rubbish. And let me tell you, fans, do not stand for this crap. What he is trying to do is cloud the issue. The fights are what count. We want to make the fights.
Talking of a good fight you've made and announced yesterday is between Liam Williams and Gary Corcoran, which take place in Wales on the 16th of July. It's a great fight for boxing.
It is. And there's going to be a world title fight on that show. And the same night, we're going to do from India, Virginia.
Against Kerry Hope.
We'll let her come on earlier because obviously the time difference. And he's going to fight Kerry Hope. So we've got 2 shows from 2 different continents. It's a great thing. And again, all this rubbish about back-to-back fights. You know, that's nonsense. Was it last week I was reading somewhere he's told somebody, we created history. Tony Bellew wins a title fight and Ricky Burns wins a fight, back-to-back fights. Done that years ago. Been there, done that. You know, we did Naz one night, Brody the next night. Done it in England. Naz fighting in Madison Square Gardens. He fought Kevin Kelly, my promotion over there. 2 world title fights on there. And back the same night in England, 4 world title fights on Sky. He should go and have a word with the people of Sky and they'll tell him what history is. Stop rewriting history. Deliver the fights.
Just going on that, what did you make of obviously Tony Bellew winning his first world title and Ricky Burns winning his 3rd weight world title?
I thought Tony Bellew, who I'm not his greatest fan as he well knows, I thought he did well. He got clips, he got up, he showed some heart. But then again, that's what I always say about fighting in front of your own fans. When you're in front of your own fans, you've got to get up because they're there. You've got to see them the next day. And he got up and he did what he had to do. And that's it. And it's a great fight, him and Enzo. Good fight, isn't it? Yeah. If Enzo comes through on Friday, there's a great domestic fight. What a bang up that'd be. Who gets clipped first there? Hey, you want to watch that, wouldn't you? There's another good domestic. Put it on Sky. And then you got, you talk about Ricky Burns. Ricky Burns, he took his opportunity, and I'm not being disrespectful, but the guy he fought, let's get it right, is a bit like the fella who Anthony Joshua won the world title off of. I mean, let's say how it is. And it's a bit like Liam, before you all start interneting it, it's a bit like Liam Smith the weekend. He done what he had to do, beat a guy. And I know that, but that was the best we could get because we made offers to Kell Brooks. We made offers to Koto, whatever you want to call him. We made those offers. In the end, my man's got to fight. He can't sit on his backside. He's going to announce a big fight for him this week.
This week? Yeah. Update on Billy Joe Saunders?
Well, here's another one. You've got Eubank Senior. You've got youngster keeps calling out
Golovkin.
Billy Joe.
Oh,
then they're calling out Golovkin. And now he's fighting that young lad from Wales.
Tom Doran.
Who's a competent professional. But I'm not being disrespectful of him. What are you talking about him for when you walked away as the WBA interim champion from Jacobs? That's what he did, didn't he?
Yeah.
Right, he walked away. I'm just making sure I've got it right.
Yeah.
He was offered a straight fight with Billy Joe Saunders. No options, no nothing. Get it on. Never heard from him again. Never ever heard from him again. Took every obstacle away. Come on, the winner take all. I don't mean purse-wise, but winner walks away with a title. Never heard from him again. So, and then he calls out Golovkin. And what is he doing? He's fighting a guy from Wales on the undercard of that show. It's bullshit. It's an insult to the fans.
Do you think that fight is unrealistic to happen between Eubank and Golovkin?
He doesn't want it. End of story. He don't want the fight. Eubanks does not want the fight. Why does Chris Eubanks Senior not want that fight? Because the golden
Are you talking
goose.
about Billy Joe Saunders or are you talking about Golovkin? Yeah?
I'm talking about Billy Joe Saunders against Eubank.
Right, okay.
And I'm talking about Chris Eubank don't want his golden goose to be roasted. And that's really the bottom line. That's why that fight. Now, Billy Joe against Golovkin, that's a tough fight for Billy Joe Saunders. He ain't defended his title yet. Just won the title again. Now, he says he wants it, and I know he wants it. And that's all about money. And if the money's not right, then I can't let it happen. It's got to be right. Because he's going seriously into Lions Den. He's fighting the #1 pound for pound fighter in the world, a monster. He's going in there with him. And the bottom line of it is that fight is a tough fight. Now, I'm not saying you get beat, it's the end of the world, because it wouldn't be. But that is a tough fight. And if you're going in with a guy, then you need to get paid for it.
Do you think, obviously, the Eubank's been very vocal about wanting to fight Gennady Golovkin? Can you see the fight happening?
He's got more chance. Do you know what? First of all, I told you before, I've said it on a couple of fights, his old man should be reported to the NSPCC for that. What has he got against these boys? And you know how much chance that fight's got of happening? That. A Beigel. Zero. Nothing. It will never, ever happen. Will not happen. Why would it happen? He's going to get beat, he's going to get knocked out. Fight Billy Joe Saunders. He will get knocked. He will get knocked out. No doubt about it. The same as if his old man had fought him, he'd have been knocked out. And I've been around. I've seen them all fight, and I'm telling you, Golovkin's a great fighter. You know, Billy Joe Saunders fighting him again as a big underdog. It's a tough fight. So if he does fight and get paid for it, I'll tell you something. Don't calling out Golovkin, want to fight in the Olympics, want to do this. You know, the old man's fight. He should have fought Billy Joe Saunders. And again, what's he done? We've been bullshitted too that he's fighting. You know, what he's going to do, he's fighting the British title again. Crap.
Okay, Frank, listen, unless you have anything else to add.
Can't think of it, can you?
No.
Have we got Vardy?
I think we're a bit of a waiting game for that one. It seems to be happening very quickly, and now it's slowed down and gone off with England.
Suarez job where
that's what I said, where it goes on for ages and we don't get it.
No, just offer that amount and then follow it up. Just unsettling the situation. Yeah. We will see.
All right, Frank.
Can't think of anything else. No, that's about it, mate.
Nothing else?
You better get off. You've got places to go.
Yeah. Okay, Frank. We'll catch up with you soon. All right.
Goodbye.
Thank you very much.
See you, mate.